There is a force more powerful than the loudest argument, more influential than endless explanations, and more dangerous than open confrontation. Most people believe victory belongs to the one who speaks the most, defends themselves the fastest, or proves their point with endless words. But history tells a different story. The greatest leaders, the sharpest strategists, and the strongest minds understood a timeless truth. Silence is not weakness, it is controlled power. Every unnecessary word reveals intention. Every emotional reaction gives away a weakness. Every desperate explanation hands control to someone else. The world constantly encourages you to speak, react, defend, and justify yourself. Yet those who master silence discover something extraordinary. They begin to see what others miss. They hear hidden motives, recognize concealed intentions, and make decisions from clarity instead of emotion. Silence creates mystery where others seek certainty. It commands respect where loud voices demand attention. It allows patience to replace impulse and wisdom to overcome pride. While others exhaust themselves trying to win every conversation, the silent person quietly gains influence, gathers knowledge, and waits for the perfect moment to act. The strongest move is often the one that no one sees coming. Your silence can become your greatest shield against manipulation, your greatest weapon against conflict, and your greatest source of inner discipline. When you refuse to react to every insult, every opinion, or every distraction, you stop giving away your energy. Instead, you begin directing it toward growth, purpose, and mastery. Today, you are about to discover why silence has shaped the destinies of powerful individuals across generations. This is not about becoming passive or avoiding challenges. It is about developing a level of self-control that transforms the way people perceive you, the way opportunities find you, and the way you command respect without demanding it. Master this forgotten power, and you will realize that sometimes the loudest statement you can make is saying nothing at all. Strength is not first revealed by what leaves your mouth. It is revealed by what you have the discipline to keep within your heart. Every great achievement begins with mastery over the tongue before mastery over circumstances. A person who cannot control speech will eventually struggle to control decisions, emotions, opportunities, and destiny itself. The world often celebrates noise because noise attracts attention, yet heaven has always honored wisdom because wisdom transforms lives. There is an enormous difference between being noticed and being respected. Attention can be gained in a moment, but genuine influence is earned through character, patience, and restraint. Many people believe silence is empty, but silence is actually filled with preparation. It is the workshop where faith becomes stronger than fear, where vision becomes clearer than confusion, and where purpose grows deeper than public approval. Seeds never announce themselves while they are developing beneath the soil. Roots expand in complete silence before branches stretch toward the sky. In the same way, God often performs his greatest work in the hidden places where applause cannot reach. Before promotion comes preparation. Before honor comes humility. Before visible victory comes invisible transformation. The scriptures repeatedly reveal this principle. Ecclesiastes reminds us that there is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. That wisdom is not merely poetic, it is practical. Discernment means recognizing that every truth does not belong in every conversation, and every battle does not deserve your participation. Jesus himself stood silent before many accusations. His silence was never weakness. It was perfect confidence in the justice of the Father. While others demanded explanations, he remained anchored in purpose. He understood that truth does not require endless defense because truth possesses a strength that eventually reveals itself. Consider the life of Joseph. He carried dreams placed within him by God. Yet those dreams stirred jealousy in the hearts of others. His journey teaches that every vision does not need public announcement before its appointed season. Sometimes people destroy what they cannot understand. Sometimes criticism grows wherever purpose begins to blossom. Yet the dream entrusted by God cannot be stolen by human opposition when it is protected by wisdom and faithful obedience. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment without allowing bitterness to dominate his spirit. During years when many would have complained, he continued preparing. That quiet preparation became the pathway to leadership over an entire nation. Observe nature carefully because creation constantly preaches without speaking. The sun never argues about its importance, yet every morning darkness retreats before its arrival. Mountains never compete for recognition, yet generations admire their strength. Rivers do not boast about their destination. They simply continue flowing until they reach the sea. True power does not chase validation because it is already secure within its purpose. When your identity rests upon God's calling rather than human applause, silence becomes peaceful instead of uncomfortable. Many lives are delayed because every emotion immediately becomes a conversation. Every disappointment becomes an announcement. Every plan becomes public before it is mature enough to survive opposition. Wisdom teaches another path. Protect your vision while it develops. Guard your peace against unnecessary debates. Preserve your energy for meaningful action instead of endless explanation. A disciplined mind understands that not every opinion deserves a response. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to give negativity permission to occupy valuable space within your thoughts. Faith flourishes where unnecessary noise disappears. Elijah did not discover the Lord through the violent wind, the earthquake, or the fire. The presence of God came through a gentle whisper. That account reminds every believer that divine direction often arrives quietly. A distracted heart struggles to hear heaven clearly. When constant arguments, endless entertainment, and relentless comparison fill every moment, spiritual sensitivity begins to fade. Silence creates room for reflection, prayer, gratitude, and renewed vision. It allows the soul to remember that success without peace is still poverty, while purpose guided by God brings lasting fulfillment. This principle also transforms relationships. Words spoken in anger can wound for years, while a moment of restraint can preserve trust for a lifetime. The strongest individual is not the one who always wins arguments, but the one who knows which arguments are unworthy of attention. Pride seeks the final word. Wisdom seeks the highest good. Humility chooses understanding over ego because lasting influence grows through integrity rather than intimidation. Imagine approaching every challenge with calm confidence instead of emotional reaction. Picture facing criticism without surrendering your peace. Envision building dreams without constantly seeking permission from people who neither understand your calling nor carry your responsibility. Such discipline changes everything. Your decisions become clearer. Your judgment becomes sharper. Your confidence begins resting upon eternal truth instead of temporary approval. Never mistake restraint for fear. The lion does not roar before every movement. The experienced builder does not celebrate before laying the foundation. The faithful servant does not abandon conviction because the crowd grows louder. Strength is demonstrated through consistency, wisdom, patience, and unwavering trust in God's timing. Every season of quiet obedience prepares you for a season of visible influence. As this truth settles deeply within your spirit, recognize that silence is shaping more than your words. It is shaping your character. Character ultimately determines capacity, and capacity determines how much responsibility heaven can safely place into your hands. Those who faithfully guard their hearts, discipline their speech, and patiently follow divine wisdom are being prepared for opportunities far greater than they presently imagine. Because every moment of purposeful silence is quietly building a life that will one day speak louder than words ever could. Master your emotions before attempting to master your circumstances, because every lasting victory is first won within the unseen chambers of the heart. The greatest battles you will ever face are rarely against people, competition, or adversity. They are fought between impulse and discipline, fear and faith, pride and humility, anger and wisdom. The person who conquers these invisible struggles possesses a strength that no opposition can easily overcome. External success may impress the world for a season, but internal dominion builds a legacy that survives every storm. Too many lives are directed by feelings that change with every situation. One compliment creates confidence, while one criticism destroys it. One victory produces enthusiasm, while one setback invites discouragement. Such instability keeps countless people from fulfilling the purpose God placed within them. Your emotions are wonderful servants, but they become dangerous masters when they begin making decisions instead of following truth. Faith teaches us to walk according to conviction rather than temporary feelings. A wise person acknowledges emotion without surrendering authority to it. Scripture repeatedly reminds us of this principle. Proverbs declares that whoever rules their spirit is greater than one who captures a city. Consider the magnitude of that statement. Human history celebrates military victories, political influence, financial success, and public recognition. Yet heaven measures greatness by self-government. A kingdom can be conquered by force, but only character can conquer the restless desires that often seek control from within. This reveals that God's definition of power begins where many people stop looking. The strongest individual is not the loudest voice in the room, but the one whose heart remains anchored when every circumstance attempts to pull it away from peace. Look at the life of David before he wore the crown. He was hunted, misunderstood, falsely accused, and forced to hide in caves while the throne promised by God seemed impossibly distant. Many opportunities arose for revenge. King Saul stood vulnerable before him more than once, and David's companions encouraged immediate action. Human emotion shouted for retaliation. Pride demanded justice. Frustration urged him to seize what appeared within reach. Yet David restrained himself because he trusted God's timing more than personal impulse. That decision revealed genuine greatness. His crown was not secured by violence, but by obedience. His influence flowed from character before it flowed from authority. This same lesson echoes through every generation. Every day you will encounter situations designed to test your emotional stability. Someone may insult your efforts. Another person may misunderstand your intentions. Unexpected disappointment may visit your plans. Financial pressure may create anxiety. Doors you expected to open may remain closed longer than anticipated. At those moments, your response becomes more important than the event itself. Circumstances introduce the examination, but your reaction determines whether you advance toward maturity or remain imprisoned by emotional instability. Remember the example of Jesus during his earthly ministry. He faced betrayal from one of his own disciples, denial from a trusted friend, rejection by religious leaders, false accusations before rulers, mockery from crowds, and unimaginable suffering upon the cross. Yet he consistently demonstrated authority over emotion through unwavering obedience to the Father's will. He did not permit hatred to replace compassion. He did not allow injustice to destroy his purpose. Even while enduring intense pain, he prayed for forgiveness upon those responsible. Such spiritual authority cannot be produced overnight. It is cultivated through continual fellowship with God and daily surrender to divine wisdom. Emotional control does not mean becoming cold, distant, or without feeling. It means allowing faith to guide feeling instead of allowing feeling to guide faith. Tears may still fall, challenges may still hurt, disappointment may still arrive unexpectedly. Yet beneath every emotion remains an unshakable confidence that God continues working even when human understanding cannot immediately perceive his plan. Peace is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of unwavering trust in the middle of uncertainty. Imagine a skilled captain navigating a mighty ship through turbulent waters. Storm clouds gather overhead, powerful waves strike from every direction. Fierce winds threaten stability. If the captain reacts with panic, every passenger suffers. Yet when leadership remains calm, clear decisions replace confusion. The destination remains possible because discipline overcomes fear. Your heart functions much the same way. Family members, friends, co-workers, and those who depend upon you often draw strength from the stability they observe within your life. Your emotional maturity becomes a testimony that encourages others to believe courage is possible during difficult seasons. Many dreams have collapsed not because people lacked talent, but because they lacked endurance. Great opportunities often require delayed gratification, patient preparation, and steady confidence through seasons where visible progress appears limited. Seeds remain buried before harvest appears. Gold must endure refining before brilliance emerges. Diamonds experience tremendous pressure before revealing extraordinary beauty. Likewise, your spirit develops resilience through trials that teach dependence upon God rather than dependence upon changing circumstances. Every moment presents an opportunity to choose wisdom over reaction. When offended, choose forgiveness before resentment takes root. When discouraged, choose gratitude instead of despair. When fearful, remember God's promises instead of magnifying uncertainty. When success arrives, embrace humility rather than arrogance. Such choices gradually transform character until peace becomes your natural condition rather than a temporary experience. The Holy Spirit strengthens those who continually seek divine guidance, making it possible to respond with grace where others respond with anger, patience where others surrender to frustration, and hope where others expect defeat. Never underestimate the influence of a composed spirit. Calmness communicates confidence without demanding attention. Patience reflects maturity beyond mere knowledge. Self-control reveals that your identity is established upon eternal foundations instead of fragile human approval. Those qualities quietly attract trust because people instinctively recognize stability in a world overwhelmed by emotional extremes. Allow every challenge to become an invitation for spiritual growth rather than an excuse for emotional collapse. Every difficult conversation becomes practice for wisdom. Every delay becomes preparation for greater responsibility. Every disappointment becomes another opportunity to prove that your confidence rests not upon favorable conditions, but upon the unchanging faithfulness of God. As this discipline grows stronger within your life, you will begin discovering that true influence is born from inner mastery, and that mastery continues opening doors to deeper purpose, greater responsibility, and a destiny still unfolding before you. Choose observation before reaction, because the person who sees clearly will always possess an advantage over the person who merely speaks quickly. Every conversation, every opportunity, every challenge, and every relationship reveals hidden truths to those who have trained themselves to listen with wisdom rather than interrupt with opinion. Far too many people spend their lives preparing answers while failing to understand the questions. They rush to be heard before they have truly learned. Yet the greatest builders of influence have always understood that knowledge enters through attentive ears long before it leaves through confident words. God created humanity with 2 ears and 1 mouth, a quiet reminder that listening should always exceed speaking. This divine design teaches an extraordinary principle. When you cultivate the habit of careful observation, you begin recognizing patterns that remain invisible to impatient minds. Motives become clearer. Opportunities become more obvious. Deception becomes easier to identify. Direction becomes more certain because discernment grows stronger every day. The book of James offers timeless wisdom when it declares that every person should be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. These are not merely instructions for polite conversation. They are principles for victorious living. A heart that listens carefully gathers understanding before making judgment. A disciplined spirit refuses to surrender to emotional haste. Such a life reflects heavenly wisdom instead of earthly impulse. Consider Nehemiah, a man entrusted with rebuilding the broken walls of Jerusalem. Before lifting a single stone, he first observed the damage. He walked quietly through the city at night, examining every broken section before revealing his strategy. He did not announce grand promises before understanding the reality before him. His careful observation became the foundation of remarkable leadership. Because he first understood the problem, he was prepared to lead others toward the solution. His example reminds every believer that wisdom begins with seeing clearly before acting boldly. Many people fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they refuse to pause long enough to understand what stands before them. They interrupt valuable counsel. They reject correction before considering its value. They assume motives without gathering facts. They form conclusions before examining evidence. Such habits produce confusion, broken relationships, and unnecessary regret. Wisdom chooses another path. It slows down enough to understand what heaven may be trying to reveal through ordinary moments. Observe how Jesus interacted with people throughout his ministry. Before answering questions, he often perceived what rested within the hearts of those standing before him. He recognized faith hidden beneath weakness. He saw potential where society only noticed failure. He understood motives beyond spoken words. This remarkable discernment flowed from perfect communion with the Father. His responses carried power because his understanding reached deeper than appearances. He teaches every believer that spiritual insight grows when fellowship with God becomes greater than the noise surrounding daily life. Observation is not passive, it is preparation. An archer studies the target before releasing the arrow. A farmer watches the seasons before planting the seed. A master craftsman measures carefully before making the first cut. None of these actions suggest hesitation born from fear. They demonstrate wisdom guided by purpose. Likewise, your life gains extraordinary strength when every decision is supported by careful reflection instead of hurried excitement. There are voices everywhere competing for your attention. Social opinions shift constantly. Headlines create urgency. Critics offer endless commentary. Comparisons attempt to steal contentment. If you absorb every voice without discernment, confusion will replace conviction. Yet when you learn to observe quietly and weigh everything against God's truth, your spirit becomes steady even while the world grows increasingly restless. Isaiah reminds us that those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. Such renewal becomes possible because they fix their attention upon eternal promises rather than temporary distractions. Imagine entering every meeting determined first to understand rather than impress. Picture every disagreement becoming an opportunity to learn instead of a battlefield for pride. Think about how many unnecessary conflicts would disappear if people listened with genuine humility. Families would experience deeper unity. Our friendships would become stronger. Leaders would make wiser decisions. Communities would flourish because understanding always builds stronger foundations than assumption. Observation also protects your calling. Every opportunity that appears attractive is not assigned by God. Every open door is not necessarily your destination. Every invitation does not deserve acceptance. Discernment develops when you patiently examine the fruit rather than becoming captivated by appearances. Jesus warned that false prophets would come disguised as harmless sheep while inwardly carrying destructive intentions. Such warnings remind believers that appearances alone cannot be trusted. Careful observation, guided by Scripture and prayer, protects the soul from costly deception. Remember the patience of Abraham. Though God promised descendants beyond number, years passed before the promise reached fulfillment. During that waiting season, Abraham learned lessons that no shortcut could provide. Faith matured through observation of God's faithfulness across changing circumstances. Each step strengthened confidence that divine timing never fails. Waiting with attentive expectation often teaches more than rushing toward immediate satisfaction. The Lord prepares hearts before He releases blessings because character must always grow large enough to carry responsibility. Never allow pride to convince you that you already know everything worth knowing. Humility keeps the mind teachable. Every person you meet carries experiences capable of offering instruction. Every challenge contains wisdom hidden beneath discomfort. Every delay may hold protection you cannot yet recognize. Those who remain eager to learn continue expanding long after others stop growing. Heaven consistently pours greater understanding into hearts that remain humble enough to receive it. As your ability to observe deepens, another remarkable transformation begins to take place. Peace replaces anxiety because you no longer feel pressured to react instantly. Confidence replaces insecurity because your identity becomes rooted in God's truth instead of public approval. Wisdom replaces confusion because you have trained yourself to seek understanding before speaking. Others may race toward conclusions, but you walk steadily with discernment. Others may fill every silence with unnecessary words, but you recognize that many of life's greatest revelations arrive quietly, shaping your spirit, strengthening your faith, sharpening your vision, and preparing you for greater assignments that are still unfolding according to God's perfect purpose.